Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast. I am your host, Christine Luken. Today's episode is called Cash is Queen, and we're talking about power, influence, and conscious investing, specifically how women can step into greater financial dignity through angel investing. Now, you might be saying, angel investing isn't for me. I'm not Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. I don't have $1 million lying around, and I'm definitely not wearing a power suit negotiating deals on national television. Stay with me, because today's conversation is not about becoming a celebrity investor. It's about understanding how women can participate in investing in a way that feels aligned, accessible, and empowering without feeling overwhelmed or out of place. And to help us unpack all of that, I am thrilled to welcome today's guest, Natalie Levy. Natalie is the founder of She's Independent, a woman-first investment group offering an entirely new way to support women's financial independence and influence through investing. She's Independent marries empowerment with action, with the mission of closing the power gap in investing. That means getting more women on the cap table, into boardrooms, and into positions of influence. Natalie's journey is fascinating. She's an accomplished engineer turned Wall Street derivatives trader, investor, and advisor with over a decade of tech operational experience. She's built a portfolio of more than 40 private investments and has experienced liquidity events averaging over 20x returns. She's also the author of a brand new book, Cash is Queen, A Conscious Journey in Angel Investing. She lives in Boulder, Colorado with her rescue pup, Beans. Natalie, welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, let's start with you, Natalie. Your path is not linear. You've been an engineer, a Wall Street trader, and now an angel investor and community builder. Can you walk us through your journey and what motivated you to pursue angel investing and to found She's Independent?
Yeah, just a little question. We'll start right there. My background, which is analytical and frameworks around math and science, it's really a journey that from a young age, I just experienced a lot of pushback as a young woman, as a young girl. And I felt if I leaned into my brain, my big, beautiful brain, and, worked hard and, made a bunch of money, that I could establish and come to a place of financial independence and freedom so that the harassment, the Me Too's, all of the misogyny was something that I could just kind of ignore or move beyond. And so I would say a lot of, the thing that influenced me was, again, the closed doors. Women aren't, accepted or supported to be in these spaces. And I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen. And so there was a lot of kind of hard charging, going through Wall Street, tech operational roles, private equity. And then, really just that journey of acknowledging, wait, as a woman, as someone who doesn't necessarily feel supported or celebrated, how can I show up for myself? How do I show up and do something that really celebrates and supports other women and girls? And so the journey of, launching this investment group, She's Independent, and then allocating to women-owned and diverse-owned, and not just feel good, but finding high caliber deal making in a way that served us as women. Wow, how full circle, how beautiful to really transform and evolve what investing looks like and what financial freedom looks like, really stepping into agency.
Yeah, because women investors are not just finance bros in skirts.
No. Well, some are, right? But if you unpack and you reflect on these experiences, these brilliant hardships and beautiful things we experience as women, transition, no, pushback, all of those things, which we all have the shared stories, right? It's in our lineage.
Yeah.
If you unpack with that and if you sit with that, the growth and the evolution, I mean, wow. And not everybody does. I mean, there's a lot of we can talk about gender, right? Like a lot of women might
Mm-hmm.
still just sit in the masculine if they're in finance, but to sit with and say, wait, I am a woman and I want to honor this. And I want to lead with a soft, maybe it's a feminine or, it's organic. I mean, how brilliant. So that's how
Yeah,
I invest today.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
this is kind of interesting. What did you have to unlearn about money or power along your
Yeah.
journey?
Gosh, everything. Okay, how long do we have? No, you know, I think the biggest things that I feel and I live and I talk about are it's the slowing down and it's let's call it the intuition or the awareness, the attunement of what do I actually want? Have I
Mm-hmm.
unpacked and learned my deep values enough so that I know and I can align with and have agency with respect to what do I want? What do I want to see in the world? What kind of investor
Yeah.
do I want to be? How do I feel in this decision? And if you don't unpack, I mean, as a woman, right? Because again, let's talk about the journey as a woman. Likely you were raised to say yes, to be good,
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
kind of be subservient on some level, to be the projection of what, people expected to be perfect and to say, wait,
Yeah.
I can push back. I can meet those boundaries and those edges and I can get to know and I can have a different opinion and that can be great. I have a voice
Yeah. Well,
versus
and
that
just
learned voice.
right. Well, and just that what you said about tuning into what you want. I
Yes.
remember specifically coaching a woman going through divorce. Her kids were all young adults, teenagers. I think her youngest was a junior or a senior. 5 kids, had
Yeah.
supported her husband in his business. And,
Yeah.
one of the exercises I take my clients through is clarifying what they want because I can't
Yeah.
help them create a prosperity plan to get from where they are to where they
Right.
want to be unless we define those 2 points. And so when
Right.
she came back with her vision board, everything was all relative to her family and her kids. And I just looked at her and I said, "What do you want just for you?" And she just
Yes.
looked at me blankly. And then she burst out crying and she said, "No one's ever
Yes.
asked me that before."
Oh, how beautiful. And that's the thing. It's like, I, I like to use the phrase sometimes these days, how can I be mindfully selfish?
I
How
love that.
often, how often have we lived in this world of like for them and we're going to give and it's the concept of, if you're not filling your cup too. And if you don't
Yeah.
take care of yourself first, when you're on that airplane and the air, the bags come down, like you have to
Yep.
take care of yourself if you're going to help others. And so
Yes.
I think as women, as I'm not a mom, I guess I'm a dog mom, but if you're not taking care of yourself, how do you take care of your family? How do you show up in community? Right. And
Yes.
so yeah, I think the taking care of ourselves, being mindful, uncovering those deep values, and something I didn't share before, which if anyone's been through, a death and deep grief experience, the unpacking of like the relearning of like, wait, like what is life about? What is it to be alive? And so for me, going through numerous deaths and losses, kicking off with my mom, a deep loss in 2019, um,
Yeah.
I care, so much about this honoring of itself. It's my mom. It's again, like women in our lineage. It's how are we
Mhm.
showing up and how are we investing in our mental health? And
Yeah.
so all of these things play in at the end of the day to how I show up and how I allocate and how I move through the world, whether it's
Uh,
in a boardroom,
mhm.
as an investor, as an educator, or just as a human.
Yeah. I love that. All right.
Yeah.
So, for listeners who may be hearing the term for the first time or who think
Yeah.
angel investing is for only the ultra wealthy insiders,
Yeah.
can you explain exactly what angel
Absolutely.
investing is in plain
Yes.
English? Who is it for? Who is it not for?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. And I also think it's really important just to honor and speak to the fact that many don't know what this is, right? It's an asset class that's
Yeah.
been kind of coveted and maybe you were in the boys club, maybe you weren't. Maybe you didn't look like the boys, right? And so what I really care about, I know you care about too, is that accessibility and the path to, how do we create a change? How do we influence equity, all these things? And so breaking down these concepts and conversations, like this is huge. So I love the work that you and I both do. Angel investing is basically being a private investor or an investor in private companies using my own capital. So let me say that again. I'm investing in private companies with my own money. And so it could be a smaller amount, and you could do this through something called, crowdfunding, where maybe it's $100 or $500. You could do it as an angel writing a direct check of $25,000 or $50,000 into a company. You could invest alongside an investor group like She's Independent Investments, maybe a check for $2,500 or $5,000. And then maybe we come together and together our check's $100,000. But again, the idea that you're giving money to a private company, not traded on a public stock exchange like the New York Stock Exchange. This isn't buying a share of Apple stock. It's basically buying ownership into, or the form of ownership into a company that's not public. So typically earlier in their funding story. What do I mean?
Yes.
A company goes through different raise stages, pre-seed, seed, series A, B, C, maybe goes public at some point. Angel is typically happening on the early end of those raises for various reasons. And I explain all this in the book, but happy to share more. That's just kind of the very high level. And what I'll also say is when we use the terminology cap table, right? Getting more women on the cap table, that speaks to the capitalization or the ownership structure. And where does power and influence come from? What do we want to see in the world? We want to see more women as owners. We want to see more women not just making more money, investing more money, being in ownership positions, having ownership stakes. That's the capitalization or the cap table.
I love that. So tell us what qualifies as an accredited investor, because I suspect that there are people listening to this podcast and they don't even know that they are already an accredited investor.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, it's a great point.
Dare to enter the Wealthy Woman Book Club, where answers exist to forbidden questions, where women of all ages and income secretly gather, where knowledge is shared, where possibilities are explored, where women claim their power. Dare to stay a spell in the Wealthy Woman Book Club. In this place, we lift each other up. In this place, we start dreaming again. In this place, we see financial miracles. In this place, we grow through the glory and the failure. In this place, we step into a new identity. Dare to champion the Wealthy Woman Book Club. We're creating a future where women are financially empowered across the globe. We're creating a future where our daughters stand on equal financial footing with our sons. We're creating a future where we purchase with our principles rather than price tags. We're creating a future where we use the power of money for the benefit of people and the planet. Welcome to the Wealthy Woman Book Club. Dare to come in, woman. Come in. Join us at wealthywomanbookclub.com.
What qualifies or what is required to be an angel investor under the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is basically meeting the definition. So there's no test or anything, but it's basically checking a box saying, I have enough earned income or assets to meet this threshold to invest in what are deemed risky assets. And so if I'm an individual, it's $200,000 over the last 2 years of income with the expectation of making that or more in the future, or $1 million of net worth and assets, excluding your primary residence. Those are two of the definitions you can meet. There are others as well. But just to say at a high level, you need to meet one of these definitions if you're investing as an investor in U.S. assets, private assets. And if most private companies, they will require that you're meeting that to invest as a private angel. Again, there's some workarounds so that you might be able to invest even if you don't meet those requirements, going through something called a crowdfunding campaign. There are sometimes other mechanisms as well. But I want to not gloss over your question earlier, which is, who is this for? Because I want to make it very clear. Knowledge, whether or not you're accredited, knowledge of showing up and investing in your skills to know how to think like an angel. Maybe you're going to be a future angel investor. Maybe you're navigating how to, step into an equity ownership package as an employee or as an advisor. If you're not thinking like an angel, if you're not investing in this, it's really easy to end up with no equity or worthless equity, or just miss the whole opportunity. So I wanted to address that as well.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, and we'll dive into this a little bit later, but I love that with She's Independent, you have an option for people who want to learn, but may not quite be ready to put actual dollars into investments yet. So, on this podcast, we talk a lot about how money is emotional. What emotional patterns or beliefs do you see holding women back from angel investing or just investing more broadly in general?
Yeah, many thoughts. I think money carries trauma in so many ways. Being able to unpack and understand, like, what does money mean to me and what is my relationship to money? So often women have been raised in a way, girls have been raised in a way to think scarcity mindset, how are you saving for groceries and how are you saving for a livelihood? Whereas oftentimes men are brought up with a mindset of risk, taking risk, stepping into risk, buying a home, investing to make money. And if you come at this and you didn't learn about stepping into risk and taking risk, how do you make money? You can't. You have to take risk to make money in investing.
Yeah.
There's no, the rule of 7, all these concepts. Like, if you don't step into risk, you're not going to make money. And so investing, and angel investing specifically, so much is about taking risk. And, right, it's like almost a bigger decision because the checks are bigger.
Yeah.
On average. You are getting locked up, meaning, you're not going to be able to say, oh, I bought the Apple stock and now I want to sell it the next day.
Yeah.
You don't have necessarily an ability to sell. You're buy and hold. Maybe you're holding on to it for 5 years, maybe a decade, maybe it goes to 0. I mean, it's a different concept of risk, and risk is big with angel.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot there. Also, being an angel, you're not necessarily, writing a check to a fund manager or saying to your wealth manager, hey, do this for me. You're stepping in. It's your decision. And that can be a really big blocker to say, oh, I don't know if I have the conviction. I don't really feel like I'm an investor. Guess what? Do you know what makes an investor? Somebody who invests.
Yeah. Well,
Let me say that again.
So funny.
What's an angel? You write a check. Now you're an angel. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's so funny that you say this because, as part of my year-end process, I do a year-end review and celebration before I start setting goals and refreshing my vision board for the next year. And as I was looking at our income streams, what I realized was this is the first year that our investments made more money than we did.
Wow.
And but what's interesting is I was like, oh my God, I'm an investor. And then I'm like,
right?
I have been an investor since 2001. I've been an investor for 25 years. That's when I really started.
You identify.
Yes.
Now
I'm ready to take on that
identity. Aha moment. Those are aha moments. It's when you write the first check, when you have a liquidity event, when you realize my investments, my portfolio is working for me. I'm not working for that. It's working for me now. I've invested in it. In those moments, action can change your mindset, right? How do you change your mindset? If you're just stuck in your head, you got to get out of your head, get in your body, get into action. Yep. That transforms the emotions.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
So your new book is titled Cash is Queen, which I absolutely love. I love this cover too. So what does that phrase really mean to you,
Yeah,
cash is queen? And what do you hope women will realize or feel about themselves
sure.
after reading this book?
Oh, I love it. I even seeing you hold up the cover, I feel so good seeing it. So cash is king is a phrase that you learn if you have a
Yep.
finance background.
Yep.
The phrase meaning cash has so much power to it. You can use it, you can spend it. Let's be honest, in this cashless world we now live in, what you're on a flight and they're like, we only take credit cards, or maybe we only take,
Right.
crypto. But the idea that cash is something that has real immediate value.
Mm-hmm.
Some investments, again, don't have liquidity. You can't actually transact in them. Cash means you can use this and buy things, and there's real power attributed. My book is an honoring of being a woman who invests, who's stepped in as an investor, who's transformed and evolved as an investor, who's moved beyond investor, back to being just a full woman and recognizing that's not what defines me, but using language throughout the novel, she, her as investor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Identifying with this woman protagonist,
Yeah.
changing phrasing of cash is king to say cash is queen, right? And reimagining this world. Language matters. So what kind of language, what kind of word choice are we using? And by the way, I ended up retitling it and updating the byline and actually changing the cover after an amazing trip out to Vegas where I stepped back into poker after, almost, I don't know, close to 2 decades. And I'd used to win poker tournaments back in my New York Wall Street days. And I went to this Vegas, poker tournament. It was alongside the World Series. And I stepped up to the tables. I hadn't played in so long. And it was this magical experience. I was really connecting with, I'm going to call it queen card energy. I mean,
Yeah.
really just brilliant stuff. And I don't know out there who believes in magic. I definitely do these days,
We
even though I'm
do.
also logical. We do. And I mean, quad queens, four queens, and, these
Wow.
hands were just miraculous. So I finished writing in the Bellagio, one of the
I love
notoriously,
that. It's so
old
beautiful in the Bellagio.
old school money casinos. And, when I came home, I was sketching. I love art. And I sketched these kind of tarot inspired queen card concepts where it was like me and my shadow self and accepting and, celebrating the full journey of, I was this Wall Street trader and now I'm this like more at peace, Zen, soulful woman, but still an investor, and just brought that all together. And so, that's where the new updated title and picture came from. And what I'll also say is initially it was Do the Thing and Change Your Mindset, a journey in angel investing.
Mm.
And then it became Cash is Queen, a conscious journey in angel investing.
Yes. Well, I love that you say that because one thing that I appreciate about your work is the emphasis on conscious investing, not just returns, but
Yeah.
also impact and alignment. So, how do you define conscious angel investing and how can women use their capital as a force for good
Yeah.
without falling into guilt, pressure, or people pleasing? Like, how do we balance this
Yeah.
purpose and
Yeah.
profit?
Yeah. I think it takes so much work, so much time with self, so much unpacking again of kind of identity of who we were supposed to be, but who we actually are, and kind of rediscovery of this soul of, what were we born into this life with and who are we? Forget the masking. And it can be
Yeah.
really hard to do that. But again, sitting with and going through tough things and asking, thought-provoking questions. Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's, reading, maybe it's being in community, but time in nature. I mean, there's so much to unpack. But I think at the end of the day, when I think of what is conscious capital, I'm not just spending, I'm not just purchasing, I'm not just investing. And
Hmm.
again, doing that work to say, where is it aligned? Where do
Yeah.
I want my money, my energy, right? On the quantum level, everything's energy. Where do I want my
Hmm.
energy to flow?
Yeah.
And is this in alignment with my values? Is this something that serves and feels good in the world, right? Like, what are my values? And listen, like at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with wanting to make profit.
Right.
And so I talk about this kind of Venn diagram of there's the risk reward, right? Like I care about the qualitative, I care about the quantitative. I have a finance background. Like I care about what feels like a good investment. But I really care about that other sphere of that Venn diagram, which says, who's the team?
Mm-hmm.
What is this business bringing into the world? It's not just profit. It's purpose, it's culture, it's mission, it's values. And so am I just going to invest in a widget? No. I might love the team, but I don't need another widget in the world. But hey, and I don't only strictly do like ESG, right? Which is a type of investor, but the things I invest in, I'm like, I love the team. I love the people because that's everything. And I'm excited about what they're building on some level, whether it's helping the environment, whether it's something for women, whether it's something I'm like, you know what? I would enjoy using this. But there's this conscious piece because it's not just throwing, it's not just investing, but it's saying, where is this going? And by the way, it's not just about investing. It's where do I spend my money as a consumer? Where am I going and spending my money? Where am I supporting businesses? Do I shop local or do I, support businesses where I like their values?
Yeah.
I'm not going to Target. Right?
Yeah. I'm not going to Target because every time I go in there, I spend $100, no matter if I have one thing on my list or 10 things on my list.
And not to get like, we don't want to get like crazy political because I also think it's really important. We don't want to scare people. We want to meet people where they are. But knowing that they pulled back on certain initiatives with the regime change, I don't like that. I think, you have your values. And if your lip service is lip service, that says something to me about how somebody operates. Yeah. And so I want to shop and I want to spend my money. And yes, I will still buy from Amazon sometimes. Do I like to? No, but it's also so convenient. And so we can't live in a perfect world.
Right.
And I also show up consciously when I can, and I'm not going to make myself insane, right, with every decision, but I educate myself as well.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's
talk about consumer spend quickly before we get off this topic. Women, globally, 85% of consumer spend. So even if you're not about investing, where are you buying, right?
Yep. Yes, 100%. Most people don't even realize that. So, well, let's talk about She's Independent because this is such a unique model. What does membership look like and how does your community support women who want to learn, invest, and grow their confidence?
Yeah. So She's Independent was born from, loss and just wanting to circle back and say, wait, what are we doing to invest and how are we showing up to really change the ecosystem for good? To create an accessible path to investing, to really drive, money in a way that feels a lot more conscious. And so for us, we initially catered to people that had money and wanted to invest. But we heard multiple younger women say, hey, I'm interested, but I don't have capital today. Right. But I want to be an angel. I want to be an investor. I'm at some point hopefully going to exit my business and invest. And so we really organically have built ourselves to operate in a way that meets folks where they are. By the way, all are welcome. We have men involved as well. And we're big on education access, creating a space that doesn't just say, you can be here, but we want you here and you can ask anything. And, actually learning, we call it, experiential learning alongside deal making. So there's learning and there's deal making and it's all happening in parallel. And so the way we source and screen our deals and the way that we're very intentional to say, we want to lean into women owned. We want to lean into these businesses, with these categories that we're really excited about as a group, but really facilitating and creating it such that it's not me making the decisions. It's us coming together and everyone being able to have a seat of influence and a voice. And by the way, it's a lot of work. It's a lot operationally, but it's beautiful. And it's minting, it's creating new angels. And it's up-leveling the way people think and show up in community around finances, around investing. And so we basically have a tiered model. You can be an investment observer. You don't need to be accredited. And you can just be there for learning. You can also be there for deal leadership, even if you're not allocating. And then we have what's called the investment member, where you have to be accredited. You don't have to allocate, but you absolutely can. We even have what we call an investment couple or household. Maybe it's sisters, mom, daughter, partners. And at the end of the day, we're just cultivating this space where it's investing, it's community, it's education. It's all of it.
Yeah. I love that. Well, and you might have seen, I just joined.
I know. I'm
As an
so
investor.
excited.
I'm so
Welcome
excited
officially.
too. And I'm also a little intimidated because I'm starting to look at all the information in there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's, these ladies are so smart. I'm like, I'm gonna sit back and just like soak all of this in, and it's. I know it's gonna be a learning curve, but it's gonna be fun.
Our group is not a group think out of Silicon Valley or out of Wall Street, like everyone has a finance background.
Right.
People with unique backgrounds, right? The varied backgrounds and the diverse perspectives and the niche expertise, like we celebrate that. So when we get together, our diligence, it might tap somebody like, okay, Dr. Edon has a really strong gov and healthcare background. Great.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, Alana, that new member, she has a really strong biz ops background. So we're marrying these skills and we're coming together collectively. And to be able to kind of crowdsource and democratize access, I mean, how brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So if a woman listening today is intrigued, but also thinking like, this sounds powerful, but I don't know if I'm ready. What is the first grounded step you would encourage her to take?
Yeah, I love that you said grounded step. First, just go on a walking meditation and just think about the brilliance of what we're talking about. No, I think that honestly, it's like sitting with yourself. Like, are you curious? Are you interested? Like, what's holding you back? Like, really, really great thought work. Joining a group like ours, even if you're on the sidelines, you can join our one-off. We have some things accessible that you don't have to be a member for. Next week, for example, we're having an investor accounting, discussion and workshop. I mean, some of this we just make accessible. Some is on our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. But if you want to step up and step into, well, how can you be more immersed? How can you, really ramp on that learning curve? I think the Investment Observer membership is really fantastic. Don't worry about being scared or intimidated. Like at the end of the day, what's the thing that holds us back? It's inaction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm such a big fan of growth edges. Like I get excited. Like right now I have a new guitar and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's intimidating, right? But how brilliant and beautiful to be able to play with something new and learn. Like that's how magical. And so I would say we invite you, right? At any level. And if you're like, hey, I think I might want to invest and I don't know, like join us as an investment member. Awesome. Right? You can do it. And I think at the end of the day, like we are absolutely emphatically not a checkbox. We are here. We were built off of belonging. We were built off of, deep values. Our North Star, to do what we've shared in this podcast, like it's not something that you can pretend, right? And you'll feel that from when you walk in the door with us.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we do a lot virtually, so you don't actually have to be in person.
Fabulous. So before we close up, I have one fun question for you. Yeah. What's something completely unrelated to money that brings you great joy right now?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say improv.
Fun.
A year ago, my mind would have exploded thinking, is Natalie going to say that in January of 2026? It's reinvention of self. It's like further unpacking of what is, how do we step away from ego and like just explore. And again, those growth edges of creative and exploration. It's musical improv. Like, I could talk for days. I love it.
But I think that's important that you talked about something like this is something that when I tried it, it was out of my comfort zone. And now I really love it. Right. And how do we know? Unless we try, right?
Yes. And it's, if you don't try, right? Like what's holding you back? And also, what kind of life are you living if it's happening to you? And so again, that concept of stepping into agency with respect to how we live, how we breathe, how we ground, how we invest, how we create,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a life worth living. And I don't mean that as a, you have to do this.
Right.
For me, it's just, I love feeling alive. So that's
Yeah.
how I live.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Natalie, I'm sure you and I can talk for about 5 hours, but I don't think our
5
listeners are going to
decades.
hang in there for quite that long. But thank you so much for being here and for the work
Yeah.
that you're doing to help women step into their financial power with integrity and
Yeah.
intention. For those of you who are listening, if this conversation sparks something in you, whether it's curiosity, excitement, or even a little discomfort, that's actually a good thing because growth starts there. You can learn more about Natalie's work and grab a copy of her book, Cash is Queen, and the She's Independent membership at she'sindependent.com. And we will have all of those links waiting for you in the show notes. Well, my friend, this is where I leave you today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave us a review. It helps other amazing humans find the Money is Emotional podcast. And if you're not a subscriber yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Until next time, this is Christine Luken reminding you that you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people love you, including me. Bye for now.